Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Making It Big. I'm your host, A.B. Ravi. This week's story is a little different. That's because the core strategy of this group is to acquire sick companies at rock bottom price and then turn it around quickly. Umesh Chowdhary, the man who built Titagarh Wagon, could well write a book titled How to Turn Around Sick Companies and Laugh Your Way to the Bank. And I'm convinced this book will be a bestseller with CEOs and B school students eagerly lapping it up. And this is not without base. Umesh, along with his father J.P. Chowdhary, has managed to turn around at least 6 companies in the last 18 years. Of these, 2 are located in Italy and France. So impressed was the French government by Umesh Chowdhary's exemplary feat of turning around a wagon manufacturing company located in northwest of France that they knighted him. Interestingly, Umesh only takes over 6 companies which are core to his mainline business. In situations like this, I am always reminded of the turnaround artist Mr. V. Krishnamurthy. He turned around 3 PSUs, Steel Authority of India, Bharat Heavy Electrical and Maruti. Krishnamurthy has time and again proved that nothing is a lost cause if you have the skill, will and the vision. The hero of this week's episode, Umesh Chowdhary, seems to have each of those qualities. Little wonder the Kolkata-based Titagarh Wagon has emerged as a leading private sector player manufacturing railway wagon and coach in a short span of 18 years. Besides supplying wagons and coaches to Indian Railways, it also caters to a few countries abroad. Market has given it thumbs up. Take a look at Titagarh Wagon's story and you know how to stay ahead in the race by adopting this mantra of acquiring sick companies at regular intervals and turning it around.
It is amazing how having an eye for turning around companies is what made J.P. Chowdhary an entrepreneur. A commerce graduate from Kolkata, Chowdhary, coming from a family with a modest background, began working as an apprentice at the young age of 15 and then took up jobs in various companies for the next 27 years. This long experience gave him exposure as to how different industries are run. In 1981, while he was pushing 40, Chowdhary came across a unit making steel castings that was into liquidation. His sixth sense told him that this company could be turned around easily. He felt so strong about it that he quit his job and put his life savings into acquiring Titagarh Steels. An employee became an employer.
My own capital was just 1 lakh rupees I had at that time. But then when I quit my existing job, I got my retirement benefits which amounted to another 4 lakhs. So with this amount, I became a 50% co-promoter in the unit, and that's how we started the process that is Titagarh Steel.
And his sixth sense was not wrong. Chowdhary turned around Titagarh Steel in the first year itself, and this gave him the confidence to acquire Titagarh Paper Mill, which was a BIFR case. He managed to turn around this paper mill too. But unfortunately for Chowdhary, the paper industry was at the wrong side of its business cycle, and the slump hit all paper mills. Luckily for Chowdhary, opportunity came knocking from elsewhere. The Indian Railways de-licensed the manufacturing of wagons, and Titagarh Steel, which was making wagon components for some wagon manufacturers, got into wagon manufacturing.
Titagarh Wagon started in 1996. I was having dinner with a railway official who asked me a question that, Mr. Chowdhary, why don't you start making wagons? I said, I don't have a railway siding, I don't have facilities, and a wagon building is a huge thing, I don't have money also. So how can I? He said, well, think about it. So we had a casual conversation over dinner, but that set me thinking. And in a part of Titagarh paper mill, we had a railway siding. And I started thinking that can I not start making wagons there? Then we went, talked to some experts who were in wagon manufacturing industry. And then I decided that yes, we will go in for wagon manufacturing.
Thus was born Titagarh Wagons in a jute godown in West Bengal with an initial capital of 50 lakh rupees. Like father, like son, senior Chowdhary's son Umesh Chowdhary too, right from the age of 15, began spending many hours in his father's office. He saw his father acquiring companies. He saw the sudden slump in business. And in 1995-1996, when Umesh, a commerce graduate from St. Xavier's, Kolkata, was just 22 years old, he took over the reins of Titagarh Wagons. The company's fortune was linked to the Indian Railways. Between 2002 and 2008, Titagarh clocked growth of 100% and it touched the 100 crore rupee mark in 2004-2005. Revenues kept looking north with the turnover touching 704 crore rupees in 2008-2009. With business booming, the management kept acquiring sick companies and turned them around. In 2005, the company entered the heavy engineering sector with the acquisition of a loss-making unit of Hyderabad Industries for a token amount of 1 lakh rupees. Its unit at Uttarpara in West Bengal made engineering products such as excavators, cranes, and was synergistic to Titagarh's wagon business. Here, Titagarh further built capacity to manufacture electrical multiple units or EMU coaches. In 2007, Titagarh bagged its first order for EMU coaches from Indian Railways. In 2008, Titagarh Wagons picked a stake in SK Birla-controlled Simco. The company was one of the premier wagon manufacturing companies till 2000 but had turned sick. And Chowdhary's acumen once again came to the fore, and Simco's net worth turned positive in 2010. With their Midas touch of turning around companies, the private equity players took a shine to the Chowdharys. Frontline Ventures acquired 2.5% stake in 2005. Chris Capital picked 6% stake in 2006. GE Capital acquired 15% stake in 2007. They were on a roll. So to expand further and reward its stakeholders, the company went public in 2008 and raised 110 crore rupees. The investors' interest was high in this company as it was one of the few companies to be licensed by the Ministry of Defence to manufacture wagons and Bailey bridges. Besides, Titagarh got its first order from Concor for wagons and from private players like NTPC. But during the boom time, Umesh did not realize that they had put all their eggs into one basket. 90% of its turnover was coming from a single product, wagons, and from a single client, the Indian Railways. And this hit the company hard in the years 2010 and 2011 when the Indian Railways gave the company no orders. Revenues fell to 576 crore rupees in 2009-2010. Now driven to the corner, the Chowdharys went back to their winning strategy, buy loss-making companies and turn them around. And this time, a big opportunity came from overseas. In 2010, the Chowdharys bought out the assets of the French company Arbel Foy Rail for a bargain price of 100 crore rupees. AFR had the capacity to manufacture 5,000 wagons, and 5 years later, in July 2015, Titagarh took over the bankrupt Italian company Firema Trasporti for 25 million euros to foray into metro coach and high-speed train manufacturing. Well, the ride for the Chowdharys has not been smooth. They have had their shares of ups and downs, intense competition in wagon manufacturing, and unremunerative contracts from the Indian Railways, its main customer, has seen it incur losses over the last 2 years. While the turnover had picked up after falling to 576 crore rupees in 2009-2010 to 915 crore rupees in 2011-2012, once again it dipped to 779 crore rupees in 2014-2015. From a net profit of 84 crore rupees in 2011-2012, it has reported a net loss of 9.8 crore rupees in 2014-2015. The business vicissitudes has forced the management to insulate its business. Today, thanks to its de-risking strategy, it has bagged orders for wagon and coaches from other quarters, has also made a mark in the defense space. Now the Chowdharys are looking to the future with optimism. On that note, it's time for a short commercial break. When we come back, CNBC TV18's Veena Krishna probes the mind of Umesh Chowdhary to understand Titagarh's future journey. Also joining us on the show is Sandeep Uppal of HSBC, giving us the banker's perspective. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. In the initial phase, Titagarh Wagon was a single product, single client driven company, as Umesh Chowdhary was very cautious and preferred to take baby steps. Once he got the hang of the business, he turned aggressive by launching new products and entering new geographies. CNBC TV18's Veena Krishna caught up with a 40-year-old Umesh Chowdhary at his Kolkata office to find out how he narrowed down on companies which were distressed and acquired them. This is what he has to say. Take a look.
Okay, Umesh, Sandeep, thank you for joining us. How did you all get into the wagon business? And also from 1995 to almost 2011, you had just one customer, that was the Indian Railways, and one product, Wagons. So how was the growth story at that time?
In the initial period, it's the question of once bitten, twice shy. So we were extremely cautious with what we did, how much risk we could take, because also it was a matter of family survival and existence and all of that. So we kept on taking baby steps as we went along. And then the railway business started booming, the wagon demand increased and so on and so forth, and we never really had the necessity to look outside the Indian Railways.
Okay.
It was only after several years when we realized that we were over dependent upon the Indian Railways, 2009-10,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
How do you start de-risking
So that is the
from
time.
mismatch?
It was, as they say, that necessity is the mother of invention. So the necessity came in because we suddenly saw the wagon business plummet.
Okay.
And it was absolutely inevitable for us to look at other avenues, and that's the time we really started. So the process of looking outside the Indian Railway for wagons started in 2007.
Okay, and then after that you went in for a lot of acquisitions. You and your father are considered turnaround experts, and that has also helped you to buy companies almost at zero value. So what is the strategy behind your acquisitions?
I think primarily luck.
Okay, more than luck.
So we've been lucky. We've got the tailwinds with us, and we've been able to acquire companies. So again, if we really look at it from the background, when I came in, particularly as a young boy, the mindset was one of extreme caution.
Okay.
And while a caution and adventurism mixed together, of course, thrown in the ambition that we did have, or I did have, we started looking at companies which did not entail taking up too much of capital exposure or debt exposure and so on. So obviously nobody is going to come and give us healthy companies at low prices, So the only option that we have is to go and buy companies which are in distress. So once you get into those companies, you cannot let it be in distress. So you have to put in all that you have and more in order to get that company out of distress. And one thing led to the other, all the efforts and luck and hard work and all of that. So of course it was a huge amount of hard work for all these companies. But we've been able to, and then also what happens is that one thing leads to the other.
Okay.
So for example, when we took over our French company, and this company was in bankruptcy, and we increased the revenue in 2000, first year after we took it over, the revenue was 2 million euros. In 4 years, we increased it to 50 million euros.
Okay.
And I received a recognition from the French president, by way of the knighthood, etc. So as a result of which, when I went to Italy and I was talking to the system over there, the unions, the government and all of that, I was quite amazed, because one of the union leaders over there, he's the national union leader of one of the toughest union leader of the Communist Party. He said, yeah, I spoke about my counterpart to France, in France about you.
Okay.
So we know that you can, you're the right guy. And I was actually zapped. I said that this is quite an interesting thing. And that helped us in taking over companies, and of course gave us a lot of, let me put it this way, the initial ice breaking that would have taken a lot of time, for example in our Italian venture, was actually broken much easier because of what we were able to achieve in France. So that's how it really helped us.
Okay. So Sandeep, as a banker, how do you look at their acquisition strategy?
Where I see it is the first 10 years were really spent on what could be the consolidation phase to really bulk up on its core offering, which was wagons, and it happened to be Indian Railways. But they were quick to realize that at some stage they were too dependent on one customer, one product. And after that, the acquisitions which are taking place both in India and overseas have been to really get them away from one customer, one product. So clearly the acquisition they did in India was to take them towards coaches. But one thing which is quite interesting is that when your first acquisition, Umesh, you made overseas in Europe and France, was in wagon, not in coaches, because that's your core strength. So again, going back to baby steps, was in wagons. So that's a nice way of going, because you're still in your comfort zone of the product and then getting a new geography. And after that, and given the confidence of having been able to operate in Europe, the next acquisition, which is the recent one in Italy, was around coaches, which gives it not just geographic diversification, but also product diversification. So if you see the business now, and hindsight's always a good thing, the way we see it is, it's allowed them that despite the slowdown in the Indian market, they've been able to hold the top line of the company, because 50% of the turnover now comes from overseas and 50% from India. Now, frankly, that overseas didn't exist, then you would have seen a company with declining turnover over time. And the second part is that given the product capability of around coaches and wagons, and being there in 3 markets, would now give them the confidence to really look at the world as a stage and see what more can be done.
Okay. So Umesh, what is the kind of growth potential that you're seeing for the next 3 years?
You see, as Sandeep just now said, just to take a lead from there, if we did not have our overseas subsidiary, we would have actually had a declining turnover, because 50% of our turnover this time last year came in from our overseas subsidiary. Okay. So now let us flip it the other way around. If the Indian market had not gone into the turmoil that it did, we would have seen a double turnover. And that is exactly what the strategy is. And this is without the Italian acquisition and without the coach business, mind you. So basically what we have been able to do is that now if we look at our business, we've been able to segmentize our business into A, the rail, in the rail, the freight and the passenger, and B, the defense. So if we really take a complete kind of bird's eye view of the business, today we have manufacturing for wagons in India. When we started in 98, our capacity rated by the Indian Railways was 150 wagons a year. Today our group capacity rated by the Indian Railways for India, that is Titagarh and Simco combined, is 8,400 wagons in a period of 15 years. Then we have manufacturing for wagons with very high technology in Europe, in France. So while we are catering to the Indian market from the Indian operations and the French market from the French operations, now we are looking at combining the two, which is the technology, the brand of Europe and the cost of India, and looking at the globe as a market. And we've really been able to start penetrating into the global market. So we signed our first export contracts a few weeks ago, wherein it's a French designed, Indian manufactured wagon.
Okay.
And same strategy we have followed for the coach. So we started making the EMU coaches in India, which was the design which is, I don't want to call it obsolete, but for the lack of any other better word that I can think of right now, I would call it obsolete. Okay. Technology, because it's Indian Railway. So how the Indian Railway used to work is that they used to give us the design. Okay. And we had to manufacture it as per their design and give it. So we've seen the trains that operate in India. Okay. But I was very clear from day one that this is not going to lead me anywhere. So this can give me a starting point. I can go with a visiting card and say that I'm a train manufacturer. I'm in the passenger segment. Otherwise, if I just go and say I make wagons and I want to make trains, they will say, okay, come back later. That's not something that we wanted. So here we established our footprint, and exactly as Sandeep said, for our first overseas acquisition, we wanted to as it is, we were going into unfamiliar territory, but we didn't want to go into unfamiliar businesses.
Okay.
So we went in for Wagon. Now with this Italian acquisition, what we've been able to do is get the entire technology and the European market. So this company has made high-speed, semi-high-speed trains, it has metro coaches, it has made the electricals, it has supplied trains to directly or through somebody to different countries. So it has all the platform ready, it has a European market, it has an order book of 220 million euros. So all of that is there. Now with this, again, similar to Wagon, I have manufacturing in India with technology that I can bring in from Europe for the Indian market. I have manufacturing in Europe for the European market, and combination of the two can cater to the global market. So when you ask me for my growth strategy, what I'm really looking at doing is now making the world our market.
So what is that one key factor that you think has led you to your success?
Well, firstly, success is relative, so I still believe that I have to get there.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, I think that if I had to say one thing, it is perseverance and determination. So having again gone through all the ups and downs in life and seen everything, one thing I have kind of never done is give up.
Thanks Umesh for joining us. Thanks Sandeep for joining.
Thank you.
Well, that was Umesh playing straight bat and articulating strategies and game plan. These are the mantras he implemented to build Titagarh Wagons. Acquire sick companies and turn it around. De-risking business in terms of product offering and geographies. Sticking to core business. Being cautiously aggressive. Never giving up despite many hurdles. Well, what appeals to me most is the mantra of acquiring only sick companies. This is unique strategy. Before I go, here's an interesting observation by Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim that fits well with Umesh Chowdhary's takeover philosophy. And I quote him, "When there is crisis, that's when some are interested in getting out, and that's when we are interested in getting in." On that thinking note, it is time to say goodbye. See you next week with another interesting episode. Till then, keep watching CNBC TV 18.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.